the playoffs are over. We just don't know it yet. I mean, we haven't seen the results, but the playoffs, if they avoid an incident this year and they're healthy, the playoffs are over. I don't think the Warriors will be challenged. I didn't think they'd be challenged last year either. They had the incident in the finals. Cleveland did a great job coming back to win. I feel even stronger this year that there'll be no challenges to the Warriors. They're that much better than everybody else. I'd be surprised if any game or any series went to a seventh game. Listen, everyone's going to try to, I could see this. You really could see some team beating the Warriors in a series? Which team? Which team has enough firepower to score with the Warriors?
So this just in, Golden State a big favorite to win the chip. But Stephen A., what's the biggest threat to the Warriors in this playoffs?
Well, I think the biggest threat is themselves, and I applaud Draymond Green sitting down with our very own Mark Stein to highlight what he has to watch out for. He's got to make sure he keeps his head on straight, and he can't be coaxed into going after anybody or getting himself technical. Some of them I didn't think were fair to him, but to be quite honest with you, others obviously were more so than fair. But in the end, what it comes down to is the biggest concern they have for themselves has to be specifically Draymond Green, because with everything that I said, even with Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, if Draymond Green finds himself in trouble where he ends up picking up too many flagrant fouls and as a result getting himself ejected or suspended from a game, then you know what? That's going to compromise Golden State significantly, because as great as those other guys are, Draymond Green has to be on the court in order for them to win the chip.
The number one threat to the Warriors is injury to Steph Curry. And Steph Curry has been injury-prone in his career. He's not a real big, strong guy. He gets you, first of all, this is what he brings. Steph Curry gives you dribble penetration and decision-making in the same package as the guy who sucks the defense out to 30-plus feet. It is irreplaceable on the Warriors. When Durant went down, the Warriors took about a week or two to adjust, and then were a terror. Looked like were the best team in basketball, period. Best team in the NBA without Kevin Durant. But if they lose Steph Curry, or even Stephen A., if he's compromised as he was in the playoffs last year, I had a big problem with them chasing 73 wins last year. I saw Steph Curry playing in, you can't say meaningless games because the best record was still sort of in the balance with the Spurs, talking about not this past season, the season previous. So you can't say totally meaningless games, but they weren't that important that he should have been playing overtime games against teams that shouldn't have been competing with the Warriors in the first place, and he was racking up those minutes. Eventually, he hurts himself in the playoffs. I can't prove that it's correlated to those minutes, but I thought maybe it was. It's possible it was. He wasn't the same player, and let's face it, Stephen A., he couldn't get separation from Steven Adams at times in the conference finals. We saw each other there, Game 7. I mean, it was a bad look for Curry, and then in the finals themselves, he choked down the stretch, and maybe part of that was not just LeBron getting in his head, as I said, but the fact that he was physically compromised. If Steph Curry
so now you're willing to acknowledge that he was physically compromised, because at the beginning of the year you didn't want to hear it. I'm saying I'm not saying you didn't acknowledge it. I'm saying you didn't want to hear it. You said no. I don't want to hear about him being physically compromised. Stephen A., he choked. You used the word choked. I mean, that's what you said, Max. Excuse me.
Did.
How are
choke.
you? Hold on. A question, sir. Question, Maximilian. Question. How are you choking if you're physically compromised?
Well, you don't have to, just because you're physically compromised doesn't mean you have to throw behind the back careless passes out of bounds in a one-possession game in the closing minutes at home of a Game 7 again in the finals. Like, that is choking. It's not about being physically compromised. Or maybe you don't clearly not want to shoot when the pressure is high, which was what was happening late in Game 7, Stephen A. We both saw it.
I'm about to catch a heart attack. Are you saying on national television that Steph Curry was scared to shoot?
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Game 7. I saw it. Sure.
What?
Late in Game 7.
Scared to shoot the basketball?
Now, listen. He could say, or someone could defend him by saying, if the shot's not falling, it doesn't help his team to shoot. Okay, he couldn't go to the next thing he can do. He couldn't go to try to get separation, with his handles and try to set up teammates because he couldn't, because he was physically compromised.
You keep uttering this nonsense. I'm going to have you banned from talking basketball. I'm going to talk to the bosses and have you banned from talking basketball, man. This is some blasphemous stuff coming out of your mouth. This is some blasphemous stuff. I mean, Max, he's scared to shoot the basketball. I understand him behind the back play. They were loosey-goosey with the basketball all year long at some moments. But, Max, that's not choking. And if you're saying he's physically compromised, I don't know how you can go from that to saying the word choke. I think you're crossing the line with this blasphemous rhetoric
I will tell you now. Let me be very clear, and it gives me no pleasure to say this. I thought that Steph had become the best player in the game. Not that he deserved to be based on everything that LeBron could do and others could do, but given the rules of the game and the way the game is played today, I thought Steph actually was best suited to take advantage of those circumstances better than any other player. And I thought they would win the championship. But a couple things happened. One, he was physically compromised, and that made him less effective overall. And two, and maybe I got the order wrong here, maybe this is one, I thought LeBron James got in his head. I thought he took his heart. Does not give me any pleasure to say that. I love Steph Curry, but that's what it looked like to me.
Let me tell you what I think you're doing right now, Maximilian. I'm going to tell you what I think you're doing right now. I kind of think you're letting Kevin Durant off the hook. Because you're saying if Steph Curry for some reason goes down, oh, my Lord, to stop the presses, everything that we hoped for the Warriors, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Draymond Green is a different matter because of the energy, because of the physicality, and because of the defensive prowess. He's a different animal. But if Steph Curry goes down and I still have Clay and Kevin Durant is everything we say he is, you should be able to overcome a potential loss of Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. As long as you have one, as long as you have one or the other with Kevin Durant should be more than able to make up for that.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong. The Warriors may be indefensible. There may be no way to truly defend them or to overcome them this year, given what the rest of the league has. But here's the best thing you can do if you're an opposing defense. Make Clay put the ball on the floor and make decisions with it. It's not that Clay can't do that. It's that that's the thing he does least well in terms of the things that he can do. If you take Clay and take him from a shooter and make him a guy who puts the ball on the floor and has to make decisions with it, he's okay doing that. But he's not a superstar doing that.
That's evading the subject. That's evading the subject.
But who else on the team other than Steph does that? Gets you dribble penetration and makes decisions.
No. You're not hearing me. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is it's irrelevant to the issue of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, I'm not talking about Draymond Green now. We're talking about the two guards. Kevin Durant's presence alone safeguards you. If Klay Thompson or Steph Curry, God forbid, ended up going down, Kevin Durant is not just a shooter. He's a player. He's not just a player. He's a superstar. He's not just a superstar. He's one of the top two players on the planet. If Klay or Steph are compromised in any way, Kevin Durant is supposed to be able to make up for that. This is what champions are made of. This is what I think you're letting him off the hook.
I don't think so, Stephen A. I think it's the way the team is structured. If they had a point guard on the bench who could get you dribble penetration, who could make decisions with the ball, and who could shoot from outside. What's that?
Sean Livingston can do that. Yes, he can.
No,
he's not a shooter from the outside, but he can.
He doesn't shoot it like that.
No, I didn't say shooter. I said dribble penetration. And you talking about dribble penetration, and you talking about creating matchup problems from the guard spot and still being able to run the show. Sean Livingston can do that.
But there is less space for everyone to operate because in the same package, he's not a guy who can suck out the defense. The point is, look, if I just told you this to start a season, forget about the Warriors, everything you know. Given their supporting cast, if I told you, here are your big three, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, you would say, that team is a 50-win team if they have a good bench. They can make it to the conference finals if things go right. That doesn't sound like a championship team unless you have a for-real point guard. You're taking Max, Steph Curry off. There's no approximation for him on the team.
Hey, Max, you're talking about Steph Curry or Klay Thompson like they your height. I'm sorry, Klay Thompson 6'7", Kevin Durant 6'11", and both of them can shoot long range. I don't give a damn about dribble penetration and space or whatever.
Well,
you should be able to make things happen even without Steph Curry. I'm not saying Steph Curry's a superstar. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying to you, Kevin Durant is your security blanket for a reason. It's the best security blanket, arguably, in the history of basketball.
And what I'm saying is the game is still won in the paint. Now, it's not posting up like they used to as much, although sometimes it is. Now it's dribble penetration to the paint, but if you don't have a team who can get the ball in the paint, you ain't
Guys, so much more to get into.
You're not saying that if Draymond Green doesn't get suspended for Game 5. It's not even a conversation we're having.
I don't know if they win that game just if he doesn't get suspended.
They win that game. It would have been over in 5.
You sure about that?
All right.
Yes.